Heaven and earth are long, and life is a dream. 2,000 years ago, a wise man traveled on a koan, using his pen as a boat, and wrote down his deepest cry for freedom. He did not join the civil service, did not work for fame, and preferred to be with heaven and earth, rather than neighboring with power. He is Zhuangzi, a man who turns human life into a legend. In this episode, we will go into the final chapter of Zhuangzi's free thinking, follow his spiritual footprints, and explore the essence, practice, and contemporary value of freedom. Zhuangzi's philosophy is not a pursuit of entities, but a practice of spiritual realm. He talked about selflessness, freedom, and harmony, not to make us escape from the world, but to let us see the world with a bigger vision. In Zhuangzi's view, freedom is not the indulgence of action, but the relaxation of the mind. It is not the unconstraint of the outside world, but the absence of inner ties. True freedom is when the boundary between man and heaven is broken, when life and the universe become one. That is the transparency of speechlessness, the silence of the resonance of heaven and earth. He advocates that Tao is inside and man is outside. This may sound like belittling human beings, but in fact it is exactly respecting the subjectivity of human beings. Because he knew that only in forgetfulness can one's heart truly rest, only in non-attachment can one's life unfold freely. What is name? In Zhuangzi's view, it is a phantom game set up by society. It makes people tired of running for their lives, makes them lose their hearts, and eventually become slaves of desire. At that time, the society, fame and fortune rampant, scholars for a piece of paper fame devoted his life. Zhuangzi looked on with a cool eye and put forward the idea that good deeds should not be close to fame, pointing out that good deeds should not be led by reputation, or else they are not really good. He said, the name of the person, also rolling each other. Fame is nothing more than mutual deception. Since name is empty, why bother to jeopardize the real for the sake of the imaginary? Zhuangzi does not live for the name, but for life. He advocated no name, not to make people negative, but to return to the true nature. In the free trip, he traveled 90,000 miles in the posture of the rock, which is not a fiction, but a characterization of the personality, not attached, not to climb, not to cater to, pure and free. Merit is the standard of measurement given to people by society. However, Zhuangzi reminds us that making merit often means losing truth. In the complicated society, people are chasing after achievements, but gradually forgetting their original selves. To do something means to intervene, to do nothing means to comply. Zhuangzi did not advocate doing nothing, but emphasized a let nature take its course approach. He warned the world, in politics, when the position and do nothing, even in the official position, but also to keep quiet, do not fight and do not grab. The true meaning of doing nothing is not to impose one's will on others, to know how to make concessions, and to respect the principles of nature. He resigned many times, not to avoid responsibility, but to keep his independence of character. He preferred to fish by the river rather than fight for fame in the imperial court. He chose a harder but truer path, the way of freedom. I is the starting point of the world and the source of bondage. Zhuangzi said, a supreme man has no self, a god has no merit, and a sage has no name. Among them, no self is the highest state of freedom. He wants us to break away from the little self that is obsessed, agitated, and entangled with desires, and to experience the big self that is with all things. Selflessness is not denial of oneself, but transcendence of the self, the unification of the I and the Tao, the letting go of the form and returning to the essence. He advocates forgetting the fluctuation of emotions and returning to the essence. He advocates forgetting the shackles of the body and traveling to heaven and earth, forgetting the boundaries of life and death, and returning to nothingness. That is a state of lofty, complete freedom. There were no obsessions, no distinctions, only pure existence. Heaven and earth are born alongside me, and all things are one with me. In this realm, freedom is not a state, but an essence. Today, we live in the age of information explosion, where fame, fortune, competition, and anxiety are almost pervasive. Have you ever tossed and turned in the middle of the night, wondering if what you are doing is worth it? Do you feel empty and helpless in the midst of a seemingly prosperous life? It is at this point that the wisdom of Zhuangzi quietly emerges. Instead of telling us to lie down, he teaches us to wake up, to be aware of our inner restlessness and the illusions of the world. To settle down within is not to give up life, but to find a direction for it. Freedom is not about rebelling against society, but about retaining independence and tranquility in the midst of society. It is an unquenchable light in the midst of clamor, a sobering sigh in the midst of confusion. In the pursuit of positive freedom, Zhuangzi reminds us that the true self is not in the external labels, but in the depths of the heart. From no name to no merit to no self. Zhuangzi spent his life painting a picture of freedom. Freedom in his life. This is not a path to fame and fortune, but a journey through the mind. When you learn to live in the present moment and be content with your own mind, you will realize that freedom is not a goal, but a way of being. May Zhuangzi's way of freedom quietly penetrate into your life like spring rain. In this noisy and fast world, may you hear your own inner voice. In the chaos, can still be free.